Welcome to Time to Teach with Tammy, the podcast that gives tips, advice, and suggestions to teachers by a real teacher. So sit back and enjoy. And oh yeah, don't forget to subscribe. And we're back for episode 34. This is a bonus episode. Today's episode is entitled New Year, New Goals. Now, I was not planning on putting up this episode, and certainly not so quickly. As you know, if you've been listening to previous episodes, you know that we're actually in a winter recess, but I just felt very inclined to put out this episode. So I hope that you enjoy. Before we get into the topic of today, I just want to kind of start our wins and fails for the week segment. So I am on winter vacation, so I don't have any wins and fails from the classroom. But wins for the week, I definitely have actually a whole lot of wins. But wins for this week is that for Christmas Day, this is the third year in a row that we have been going to Talpa de Allende, which is in Jalisco, Mexico. If you've been following my podcast, you know I live down here in Mexico. So this is a few hours from where we live. And as always, it is just a beautiful pueblo. I love going there because I love it's just very old and beautiful. And we hiked up to the top of what's called Cristo Rey. So it has a really beautiful scenery as you go up, and you can overlook at the town, and it's just gorgeous. I think what I will do is maybe include a link in the show notes where you can get more information about Talpa. But yeah, it was wonderful. And we, like I said, we've been doing that this is our third year now, doing that on Christmas. And then I have a couple of fails. They're kind of related. So one of my fails was that we had bought 3 of those aluminum trays and completely left them at home. So we go to the in-laws, to my husband's family, for Christmas, and they're about an hour and a half away from where we live. So yeah, we left those trays and we had to buy new ones when we got into town. And then another fail, again, this is very much related. So when we went to make the turkey, by we I mean my husband, he's always in charge of the turkey. We discovered that those bags that you can cook turkeys in. So we had bought a box of those bags, or bag, I forget how many come in a box here in the city where we live. And then when we got to the in-laws, I went to open up the box and it was still closed, although it was kind of smashed. And then there was nothing in the box, absolutely nothing. And then of course we couldn't find it in the in-laws town, so we had to make our turkey without the bag, and it was fine. It only took maybe like an extra hour, and the turkey was still really good and delicious. But that was a very irritating to have bought a box of the baking bags and not actually have baking bags in the box. Okay, so that is it for the wins and fails segment. We're going to go ahead and get into today's topic, which is New Year, New Goals. And I know a lot of people feel like, they don't necessarily make goals just because it's a new year, and that's fine. I'm always making goals for myself. I don't wait just for New Year's. I'm always setting goals, working on goals, reaching goals, setting new goals. So of course I take any opportunity that will include New Year's. I personally like to do personal goals and resolutions, just because of the fact that I'm always working on me and always trying to be a better version of myself than I have been. So today's episode is primarily going to focus around me and my goals. And that's also because even though maybe that's not too general, I always feel like when someone shares something that's personal, someone else can always take something from it. However, if you feel like that's not your thing and you're not interested in it, you might want to skip today's episode because it is really just about me personally. But I do, like I said, I really feel like one of the great things that I love about podcasts is the sharing of ideas, and I just find that ideas can be so impactful. I mean, that's really how I feel like I cultivate so much of my own personal learning and understanding is by listening to other ideas. So that's why I'm putting this episode out there, because I feel like it can still be very beneficial. But if that's not your thing, then you definitely want to skip today's episode. Okay, so some of the goals and some of the things that I definitely want to be working on in this new year. Now, I will probably have many more. Like I said, I'm always coming up with goals and working towards them. And then when I reach a goal or get close to a goal, I'll also come up with other things. I'm always working on me. But one of the things that one of my goals for this year is to read more professional development books. Yay. So I'm very excited about this because I have been dedicating the last couple of years. My growth has been coming via podcasts primarily, just listening to a ton of podcasts. So you guys know I listen to education podcasts. I started with listening to fitness podcasts, healthy food, healthy living podcasts, and of course I listen to news via podcasts. I mean, that's basically my life. That's what really inspired me to start my own podcast, not because I was listening to podcasts, but I have been putting out content on teaching via blog writing, and have now kind of turned that into podcasting. So in fact, I would say more than but most of my content now that I create is via my podcast. But I got the idea of turning my content into podcasts by listening to podcasts. So I'd really like to take a lot of that and start focusing on reading professional development books. And I can say I am excited that I have recently purchased I think it's called the 40, let me not misquote. I have it right here, but does it tell me the name? Well, it's 40 hour faculty. Let me go back to the cover of it. I have the Kindle version. The 4 O'Clock Faculty, and this is by Rich Sizes. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I'm actually in a book study on this book, which is why I purchased it. So this is a new book study group. I've talked about how I'm in a Facebook book club. So this is a different one. It's one that I got connected to through Twitter. So it's on Voxer, and so it's nice being in this book study. It hasn't officially started. We have been communicating, but have not started actually discussing the book, because that is going to happen in January. The other thing I want to say is, so being able to read more professional books is definitely now going to be much easier, because maybe a year-ish ago or so, Amazon came into Mexico. So now there's Amazon Mexico, which means that this Amazon actually stocks items in Mexico. So that's very nice, because otherwise, if you're ordering something from the US, when you're obviously paying import fees, and then it can take a really long time. So I really had not purchased anything through Amazon, US Amazon, in my whole time of being down here in Mexico. And I just barely a couple weeks ago decided I'm going to try out Amazon Mexico, because I've heard really good things about the service, and I always get a little bit, I don't know, I get a little bit leery of ordering things online and having things shipped to my house. Well, in this case, I didn't have it shipped to my house, but I'm just always kind of like to research it and find out other people's experience. So I heard lots of good things, and my daughter had requested a book for Christmas, a specific book. So I thought, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to check out Amazon Mexico. So I did, and I ordered myself this book, and I got the e-reader version. And that's my Voxer going off in the background. I should probably turn that off. And then I also got this book for the book that my daughter had requested. So and hers was a physical book, and I ordered one day shipping, and it was there the very next day. I had it sent to my school. So this was a success. So that means I will be purchasing more books via Amazon in Mexico. Okay, moving on to my next goal for the new year. So as you can see, or you will see, some of these kind of pertain to education, and or at least if not directly, indirectly, as is this one. So I just spoke about Voxer, and I've mentioned Voxer a few times. So Voxer is a free walkie-talkie app. I mean, I think there's a paid, you can add onto your subscription and pay, and then you get more things with it, but I just do the free version. And this is very nice because I got acquainted with this just very recently, within the last couple of months maybe, and I heard about it from Twitter and heard about the book study. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna check it out, and I joined. An administrator has to invite you to the group, so you just kind of have to, you can't just actually look up Voxer groups. But so I joined a couple of Voxer groups. So my goal is really, I want to get more active in Voxer. I have found that being active in Twitter, I've been able to grow and really just have access to really great professional development, because those of you who are on Twitter, you will know this, but there are Twitter chats going on all the time, so you can continue to grow and learn from others, hear what they're trying in their classrooms, or just in the field of education. So that's super nice. And so I feel like I'm just kind of starting to dabble in Voxer, but I'm really excited to be able to explore it more, especially as I begin to use it in this book study that I'm doing, and just see, where else this takes me. And my next goal is I want to continue to grow my podcast. And by that, I just mean like really become more comfortable with podcasting. Now that I'm 34 episodes in, I feel much more comfortable than in the beginning. In the beginning, it just felt very odd to be in a room, on a microphone, talking to myself alone. This was very odd, but I'm much more comfortable in it. I have done a few interviews and would like to continue to grow in that way as well. Just, continue putting out the content, and just, I think by continuing to be consistent with it, it will just kind of naturally grow. But I am very excited to see, what maybe where this takes me. And, my whole goal with podcasting is just whoever is seeking out information, if I can provide something from my experience, then that alone has made me happy. I'm not necessarily looking for huge download numbers. I don't receive any money for my podcast. I pay to have it hosted. So if we want to look at it that way, I'm losing money on it. But just being able to put out the content is very satisfying for me. So I am excited to see where else I can grow in my own podcasting. It's really fun for me too, and I find for me it's also a bit of reflecting on my own practices, and even just, I think, the act of talking out some of the ideas that I have really helps me in maybe planning and reflecting and even just understanding concepts. So a lot of it, is for me as well. It's almost professional development for myself, because I can better understand concepts and things that I'm trying in the classroom as I talk about it. So that is another goal that I have for this new year. And then lastly, so I think today's episode will be pretty short, but lastly, something that I'm definitely wanting to continue working on is my use of non-linguistic representation in the classroom, and specifically having students use this as they represent their learning. Now, I've talked about this on past episodes. I have done one episode in the Non-linguistic Representation PLC series. I'm waiting to add on to that because I want a large body of information and maybe reflections that I can provide for you guys before I do another episode in that series. But I have been running a PLC at my grade level on non-linguistic representation, and there's so many different ways that you can go through this. We first were planning on just having that be our strategy for a month, but then after we saw that, there's so many different angles that you can do this, we decided we really want to go farther with it. I don't know how far we're going to take it. One of the next things I want to do is go to my grade level and ask them that very question: how far do you want to take this? Do you want to continue it for the rest of the school year, or do you want to move on to a new strategy? I'm hoping they will want to continue it, because I certainly do, and I certainly will, regardless of whether or not we continue that particular strategy in our grade level PLC. I personally am going to continue to use it in my classroom and grow in the non-linguistic representation. I have just found this to, really kind of change things up, change in my teaching, and change in the way that I'm getting students to show their learning. I'm always thinking about how can I get them to show and reflect in a non-linguistic way. Last episode 33, I even shared in my wins and fails. One of the wins was that in my classroom I did a winter holidays rotation, and it was really, really nice because I had a video that I played. It was just a Brain Pop Junior video, which I love those videos. So anyway, I played this video in small groups, and after each holiday I paused it. I had students stop and think about what they learned and then represent their learning in an image. And I just, I find that now that I'm focusing heavily on the non-linguistic representation, I'm always thinking of ways, just kind of accidentally thinking of ways that I can have students use the strategy to represent their learning. So this is something that I really, really want to focus on in 2018, because I see so many possibilities with it. I mean, you can use it in every subject. You can use it in so many ways, not just images, but, acting things out. It's just something for me that I really want to hone in on and develop in that way. I think I will become a better teacher by focusing on this strategy. So that's it, you guys. I do have some other things brewing in my mind, but if you've been listening for a while, you know me. I'm pretty private. There's some things that I'm just not willing to send out in the world, but I do know that there are other goals and other things that I am definitely working on, because I always have goals. I'm always working towards things, and I'm always trying to become a better version today than who I was the day before. I just think that's so important. And that is it, you guys. And I'll, of course, keep you updated on my journey into these goals and let you know how I do with them. In the meantime, I'd love to hear your own goals. If you have something that you're working towards in 2018, if you'd like to share, if you feel comfortable sharing those, why don't you go ahead and tweet to me? My Twitter handle is @TammyJ. That's TAMIJ 1, 2, 3. Again, I will remind you that we being Time to Teach, we are on winter recess. So this is a bonus episode. I wasn't going to publish any episodes until, let's see, later January, I believe. I'm trying to remember now. I was looking at the calendar and I want to say it was about the 18th or so of January. Maybe it wasn't even until the 20th. I can't remember now. But we'll be coming back later in January. We are in winter recess. So I do hope that you enjoyed this bonus episode. Enjoy the rest of your winter holiday, and I'll see you next time. Wait a minute. Wait 1 minute. Before you go, don't forget you can catch our show notes online at www.timetoteach.libsyn. That's libsyn.com. We're also on Facebook at Time to Teach. Don't forget to check out our Facebook group, Teachers for Effective Curriculum. And if you're an educator with your own podcast show, I invite you to join our brand new Facebook group, Teachers Who Podcast. Let's grow a community where we can network, problem solve, and discuss anything and everything podcast related. I'll see you there.